Fleet Commander Vexithera stood on the bridge of her massive warship, looking out at the greatest fleet ever assembled. 847 ships stretched as far as the eye could see. Each one was a weapon of destruction that could level cities. Together, they carried enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this part of space for thousands of years. 12 different alien races had joined together under one banner. Their technology was the most advanced in the known galaxy. Their armies had never lost a war. When they demanded surrender, worlds gave up without a fight. But now, for the first time in centuries, someone had said no. The humans. Vexithara looked at the datapad in her clawed hands. The information about humanity was thin. They were a young race who had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their ships were primitive. Their weapons were basic. They had maybe 30 or 40 vessels total, scattered across a dozen small colonies. Sub-Admiral Krex walked up beside her. His scaled face showed amusement. "Commander, this feels like using a hammer to crush an insect. Why did the Emperor send such a massive fleet against these humans?" Vexithara's 4 eyes studied the tactical displays. The Emperor wants to send a message, not just to the humans, but to every other race watching. He wants them to see what happens when someone refuses the Empire. The bridge crew worked quietly around them. Officers from different alien races sat at their stations. Some had tentacles instead of hands. Others had multiple arms or strange-shaped heads, but they all shared one thing: complete confidence in their victory. Captain Zix, a tall being with silver skin, approached them. "Commander, our scouts have finished mapping the human territory. They have 12 colonies total. The largest has maybe 10 million people. Their capital world, Earth, has about 8 billion. What about their fleet?" Vexithara asked. 32 ships confirmed. The largest is maybe 2 kilometers long. They use primitive fusion drives and basic energy weapons. Our smallest escort ships could destroy their best dreadnought without taking damage. Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "This is not a war. This is an extermination. We could conquer their entire territory in a week." Vexithara nodded, but felt uneasy. Something about this situation bothered her. In her 200 years of military service, she had learned to trust her instincts, and right now, those instincts were telling her that something was wrong. "Sir, incoming message from the Empire," Communications Officer Thys announced. Her voice carried the musical tone of her species. "Put it through." Emperor Valdris appeared on the main screen. His ancient face showed no emotion. "Commander Vexithara, you are approaching the human border world of Kepler's Gate. This will be your first target." "Yes, Your Majesty. What are our orders regarding prisoners?" "There will be no prisoners. The humans must be made an example. Destroy everything. Leave nothing standing. When other races see what happened here, they will think twice before defying us." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Even hardened military officers felt uncomfortable with total destruction orders. But orders were orders. "You heard the Emperor," Vexithara said. "Prepare for hyperspace jump to the Kepler system. All ships will follow my lead. We will emerge at the edge of the system and give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse..." She did not need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. The massive fleet began moving. One by one, the ships disappeared into hyperspace. Vexithara watched as her armada vanished, heading toward human space. Soon, only her flagship remained. "All departments report ready for jump," Krex announced. "Take us into hyperspace." The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship entered the strange realm between dimensions. The journey to Kepler's Gate would take 6 hours. Vexithara used the time to study everything they knew about humans. The files were strange. Humans seemed to be a violent species. Their history was full of wars. They had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching space. Yet when they finally left their world, they became peaceful. They avoided conflicts with other races. They traded fairly and kept their word. This made their refusal to surrender even more puzzling. Every other race that had opposed the Empire had been warlike and aggressive. They had fought because fighting was their nature, but humans were different. They were peaceful traders and explorers. So why were they choosing to fight now? "Commander," Thys called out, "we are receiving data from our spy networks inside human space." "What do they report?" "The humans are not evacuating their colonies. They are not building defenses. They seem to be waiting. Waiting for what? Unknown, sir. But there is something else. Our spies report that human military bases are almost empty. Most of their fleet seems to have disappeared. Vexithara felt her unease growing. Disappeared where? We don't know. They just left. No one knows where they went. Krex shrugged his massive shoulders. Perhaps they are running away. Humans are supposed to be cowards. But Vexithara was not convinced. In her experience, when an enemy did something unexpected, it usually meant trouble. And humans were definitely acting unexpected. Sir, we are approaching the Kepler system, the navigation officer announced. All ships prepare to exit hyperspace. Battle stations. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. 847 ships appeared in perfect formation. It was a sight that had struck fear into the hearts of countless races. Vexithara looked at the tactical display. Kepler's Gate was the third planet from the HFY star. It had 5 million human colonists and was defended by nothing. No ships, no orbital platforms, no defense satellites. It was completely unprotected. This is too easy, she whispered. Sir, we are being hailed by the planet, this reported. Put them through. A human face appeared on screen. The being looked surprisingly similar to several other species, but with unusual skin and hair colors. The human appeared calm, even though he was facing the largest fleet ever assembled. This is Governor Harrison of Kepler's Gate. State your business. I am Fleet Commander Vexithara of the Zephyrian Empire. Your government has refused our demand for surrender. You have 1 hour to evacuate this world. After that, we will destroy everything. The human smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Governor Harrison to all Zephyrian ships, your demand is refused. If you want this world, come and take it. The transmission ended. Vexithara stared at the screen in amazement. The human had just refused surrender while facing impossible odds. Either they were insane, or they knew something she did not. Commander, Krex said quietly, what are your orders? Vexithara looked at her fleet. 847 ships, 2 million soldiers, the greatest military force in galactic history, against 5 million undefended humans. Something was very, very wrong. 12 hours had passed since Governor Harrison refused their ultimatum. Fleet Commander Vexithara paced the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical displays. Her armada remained in perfect formation at the edge of the system, but something felt wrong. The humans on Kepler's Gate were not acting like a doomed population. Intelligence reports showed normal activity on the planet's surface. People were going to work. Children were attending schools. No one was running or hiding or preparing for death. Sir, we are detecting an energy signature from the inner system, Sensor Officer Nalix announced. His tentacles moved quickly over his control panel. Vexithara moved to his station. What kind of energy signature? Unknown, sir. It is very large, but the readings are strange. Our computers cannot identify what type of ship this is. Sub-Admiral Krex joined them. How large? According to sensors, approximately 50 kilometers long. Krex laughed. Impossible. No ship that large has ever been built. Your sensors are malfunctioning. But Vexithara was studying the display carefully. The energy readings were unlike anything in their databases. More troubling, the signature was moving toward them. Slowly, but steadily. Sir, Communications Officer Theiss called out. We are receiving a transmission from Kepler's Gate. Put it through. Governor Harrison appeared on screen again. He looked exactly as calm as before. Fleet Commander Vexithara, your ultimatum has expired. I notice you have not begun your attack. We are proceeding according to military protocol. Vexithara replied, you still have time to evacuate your civilians. That will not be necessary. We have sent our response to your fleet. What response? We have detected no ships launching from your planet. Harrison smiled again. That same cold smile from before. You will see shortly. Harrison out. The transmission ended. Vexithara turned back to the sensor station. Nalix, give me a full scan of the system. I want to know about every ship, every satellite, every piece of space debris. The sensor officer worked for several minutes. Sir, I am reading one ship approaching from the inner system. Range is approximately 200 million kilometers. It will reach us in 14 hours if it maintains current speed. One ship? Krex sounded amazed. They are sending one ship against our entire fleet? Captain Zix approached from her station. Commander, perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel. They may be attempting to negotiate. But Vexithara was studying the energy readings. Whatever was approaching them was not a diplomatic ship. The power signatures were enormous. More concerning, her computers could not identify what type of propulsion system it was using. Sir, long-range sensors are getting a better reading, Naelix reported. The approaching vessel is very large. How large? Initial scans suggest approximately 100 kilometers in length. The bridge fell silent. No one had ever built a ship that large. The biggest vessels in the Zephyrian fleet were 15 kilometers long. A 100-kilometer ship was impossible. Your sensors are definitely broken, Krex said. Run full diagnostics. Sir, I have run diagnostics 3 times. All systems are functioning normally. Vexithara felt a chill run through her body. Naelix, can you determine what type of ship this is? Negative, sir. The design does not match anything in our databases. The energy readings are also unknown. Whatever powers that ship is not based on any technology we understand. Commander, Captain Zix said quietly, should we send a scout ship to investigate? Vexithara considered this. Standard military procedure would be to send fast scouts to gather intelligence about unknown contacts, but something told her that would be a bad idea. Negative, we maintain position and wait. Hours passed slowly. The unknown ship continued its approach. As it came closer, the sensor readings became even more strange. The ship appeared to be incredibly massive, but its exact size kept changing. Sometimes sensors read it as 200 kilometers long, sometimes 50. Sometimes the readings showed it was somehow bigger than their entire fleet. This is impossible, Krex muttered. Ships cannot change size. Sir, Naelix called out. The approaching vessel has slowed down. It is now approximately 10 million kilometers away and appears to be stopping. Stopping? Why would they stop so far away? Unknown, sir, but I am getting much clearer readings. Now, Vexithara looked at the new data and felt her blood turn cold. According to sensors, the human ship was massive beyond belief, but more troubling were the energy readings. The unknown vessel was generating more power than her entire fleet combined. Commander, Theiss announced, we are being hailed by the approaching ship. Put them through. A new human face appeared on screen. This one was older, with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations. Greetings, Zephyrian fleet. I am Captain Chen of the human vessel, Terra's Wrath. I understand you have come here to conquer this world. Vexithara found her voice. This is Fleet Commander Vexithara. You are approaching a Zephyrian Imperial fleet. Identify your intentions. My intentions are simple, Commander. You have threatened human civilians. That cannot be allowed. Krex stepped forward. Human, you pilot one ship. We command 847 vessels. You cannot possibly hope to challenge us. Captain Chen looked at Krex with something that might have been pity. Sub-Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not here to challenge you. We are here to give you one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Withdraw? Krex's voice rose in anger. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not withdraw. That is unfortunate, Chen replied calmly. But we hoped you would reconsider. Your fleet is impressive, but you are facing something you do not understand. Vexithara studied the human captain. He showed no fear, no concern about the overwhelming odds. Either he was insane, or he knew something she did not. Captain Chen, our orders come directly from Emperor Valdris. We cannot withdraw. I understand. You have your duty, and we have ours. Terra's Wrath will take position at a safe distance. When you are ready to begin your attack, we will be waiting. The transmission ended. Vexithara turned to her officers. Analysis? Sir, either the humans have gone completely insane, or they possess some kind of weapon we know nothing about. Captain Zix said. What could one ship do against our entire fleet? Krex demanded. Even if it carries some kind of superweapon, we have enough ships to overwhelm any defense. But Vexithara was thinking about the sensor readings, the massive energy signatures, the unknown technology, the complete confidence of the human officers. Naelix, what is our enemy ship doing now? Sir, the human vessel has stopped approximately 5 million kilometers away. It appears to be waiting. Waiting for what? Unknown, sir. But, Commander, I must report something strange. Our targeting computers cannot lock onto the human ship. What do you mean? Every time we attempt to target the vessel, our systems malfunction. It is as if the ship does not exist in normal space. Vexithara felt her unease growing into real fear. How is that possible? I do not know, sir, but our weapons systems cannot target. Something we cannot lock onto. Krex slammed his fist on a control panel. This is ridiculous. It is one ship against 800. What are we waiting for? But Vexithara was remembering old stories, legends about ancient races who had built ships that were more than ships, vessels that could bend the laws of physics, technology so advanced it seemed like magic. She had always thought those stories were myths. Now she was not so sure. Sir, Thies announced, incoming message from the Emperor. Put him through. Emperor Valdris appeared on screen. His ancient face showed impatience. Commander, why have you not begun the attack? What is causing this delay? Vexithara chose her words carefully. Your Majesty, the humans have sent a ship to oppose us. We are evaluating the tactical situation. One ship? You have 847 vessels. Destroy it and proceed with the mission. Yes, Your Majesty. The transmission ended. Vexithara looked around her bridge. Her officers were all staring at her, waiting for orders. She took a deep breath. All ships prepare for battle. Target the human vessel. Fleet Commander Vexithara watched her tactical display as 847 Zephyrian ships moved into attack formation. The human vessel remained motionless 5 million kilometers away, waiting like a patient predator. Sir, all ships report ready for combat, Sub-Admiral Krex announced. Weapons are charged and targeting systems are active. Good. Order the fleet to advance. I want visual confirmation of our target before we open fire. The massive armada began moving forward. Vexithara had seen this sight many times before. The combined fleet of the Zephyrian Empire advancing in perfect formation was one of the most beautiful and terrifying sights in the galaxy. Ship after ship, each one a masterpiece of military engineering, moving together like a single organism. Sir, we are at 2 million kilometers from the human vessel, Sensor Officer Nalix reported. Our systems are finally getting clear readings. What do you see? Nalix was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was strange. Commander, you need to see this for yourself. Vexithara moved to his station. The sensor display showed something that made no sense. According to the readings, the human ship was not 50 kilometers long, or even 100 kilometers. It was nearly 200 kilometers from front to back. That cannot be right, she whispered. Sir, I have run diagnostics 17 times. All systems are functioning perfectly. The human vessel is approximately 197 kilometers in length, 43 kilometers wide, and 28 kilometers tall. Captain Zix joined them at the sensor station. A ship that large would require the resources of an entire solar system to build. The amount of metal alone would be impossible to gather. But Vexithara was studying other readings. The ship's mass was incredible. It weighed more than some moons. The energy signatures coming from it were beyond anything she had ever seen. Whatever powered that vessel was generating enough energy to light up an entire star system. Sir, we are now close enough for visual contact, Communications Officer Thiss announced, putting the image on main screen. The bridge display activated, showing the view ahead of their fleet. At first, there was only empty space and distant stars. Then, slowly, something began to resolve in the center of the screen. Vexithara heard gasps from her bridge crew. Several officers stood up from their stations. One made a religious gesture that his species used to ward off evil. The human ship was impossible. It hung in space like a small moon, but no moon had ever been built with such perfect geometry. The hull was dark, almost black, but patterns of light moved across its surface like lightning trapped in metal. The ship had a vaguely triangular shape, but with curves and angles that hurt to look at. It was as if someone had taken the concept of a starship and rebuilt it according to rules that did not apply to normal space. By the gods, Krex whispered, how did they build something like that? But Vexithara was noticing other things. The space around the human ship was wrong. Stars visible behind it seemed to bend and twist. Light itself appeared to curve as it passed near the vessel. It was as if the ship was so massive that it was warping space around itself. Nalix, are you detecting any gravity distortions? The sensor officer worked frantically at his controls. Sir, the readings make no sense. The human ship appears to be generating a gravity field equal to a small planet, but that should be impossible for something made of metal. What about the hull composition? Unknown, sir. Our sensors cannot identify the material. It appears to be absorbing our sensor beams rather than reflecting them. Captain Zix was staring at the main screen with wide eyes. Commander, look at the surface patterns. Vexathera looked more carefully at the lights moving across the ship's hull. At first, she had thought they were random, but now she could see that they formed complex geometric patterns that shifted and changed like living things. The patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with something, as if the entire ship was breathing. Sir, I am detecting massive power fluctuations from the human vessel, Nalix reported. Whatever energy source they are using, it is unlike anything in our databases. Could it be some kind of artificial gravity generator? Negative, sir. The energy signatures are completely unknown. Our computers cannot even categorize what type of power this is. Krex was studying tactical displays. Commander, our weapon systems still cannot achieve target lock. Every time we try, the targeting computers malfunction. How is that possible? Unknown. It is as if the ship does not exist in normal space-time. Our sensors detect it, but our weapons cannot target it. Vexathara felt a chill of fear run down her spine. Are you saying the ship is somehow outside normal reality? I do not know, sir. I only know that our most advanced military systems cannot establish a firing solution. On the main screen, the human ship remained motionless, but now Vexathara could see smaller details. What she had thought were windows or ports were actually openings that seemed to lead into infinity. She could see lights moving inside the ship, but they looked less like illumination and more like captured stars. Sir, Thais called out, we are being hailed by the human vessel. Put them through. Captain Chen appeared on screen again. Behind him, Vexathara could see what looked like the bridge of his ship, but the walls seemed to stretch back much further than should be possible. Strange symbols floated in the air, and she could see other humans working at stations that appeared to be made of light itself. Commander Vexathara, I see your fleet has moved closer. Have you had time to reconsider our offer? Vexathara found her voice. Captain Chen, what is that ship you are commanding? Chen smiled sadly. Terra's wrath is humanity's answer to those who threaten our people. She is more than a ship, Commander. She is a living piece of human will made manifest in reality. That is impossible. Ships are machines. They cannot be alive. Your understanding of what is possible is limited by your experience, Chen replied gently. Humanity has learned to build things that exist on multiple levels of reality. Terra's wrath exists in normal space, but also in dimensions you cannot perceive. Krex stepped forward angrily. Human, you speak nonsense. No matter how large your ship is, it is still just one vessel against our entire fleet. Chen looked at Krex with something like pity. Sub-Admiral, you still do not understand. We are not trying to fight you. We are trying to save you from making a terrible mistake. Save us? Krex laughed harshly. From what? From learning what happens when someone threatens human civilians. The transmission ended. Vexathara stared at the massive ship on her screen. Now that she looked more carefully, she could see that it was not just large. It was complex beyond understanding. The hull appeared to have layers that existed in different dimensions. Parts of the ship seemed to phase in and out of normal space. Commander, Nalix said quietly, I must report something else. Our deep space sensors are detecting spatial distortions throughout this system. What kind of distortions? It appears that the presence of the human ship is affecting the fabric of space itself. Reality is becoming unstable in its vicinity. Vexathara closed her eyes and tried to think. Everything she knew about technology, about physics, about the possible, was being challenged by what she was seeing. The human ship was not just advanced. It was operating according to laws of science that her people did not understand. Sir, Captain Zix said softly, what are your orders? Vexathara looked at her fleet. 847 ships, the greatest military force in galactic history. All of them combined were smaller than the single human vessel they faced, and somehow she suspected that size was the least of their problems. All ships maintain current position, she ordered. Do not approach the human vessel. Sir, Krex protested, the Emperor's orders were clear. We must attack. Vexathara looked at the impossible ship hanging in space before them. Patterns of light continued to move across its hull like trapped lightning. Space itself seemed to bend around it, and she could feel something vast and patient watching them from within its depths. "Yes," she said quietly, "we must attack. But first, I want to understand what we are facing." Because somehow she knew that when they opened fire on that ship, everything was going to change. And she suspected that the change would not be in their favor. Fleet Commander Vexathara stood on her bridge, staring at the impossible human ship that hung in space before her fleet. The massive vessel remained motionless, waiting with the patience of something that had no reason to fear anything in the universe. Commander Sub-Admiral Krex said urgently, "We have been in position for 2 hours. The Emperor expects results." Vexathara knew he was right. They could not wait forever. Whatever the human ship was, whatever technology it possessed, she had her orders. 847 ships against 1. Even if the humans had built something incredible, surely the combined firepower of the entire Zephyrian fleet would be enough. "All ships prepare for coordinated attack," she announced. "Target the human vessel. On my command, all ships will fire simultaneously." Across the fleet, weapons systems powered up. Energy cannons charged to full power, plasma torpedo tubes loaded, kinetic railguns prepared their devastating projectiles. The combined weapons of nearly 1,000 ships represented enough firepower to crack the surface of a planet. "Sir, targeting systems are still experiencing difficulty locking onto the enemy vessel," Sensor Officer Nalix reported. "Can we fire without a lock?" "Yes, sir. We can target the area where the ship is located." "All ships report ready," Krex announced. Vexathara took a deep breath. All ships opened fire. Space erupted in light. 847 ships fired at once. Energy beams, bright as suns, lanced across the void. Thousands of plasma torpedoes streaked toward their target, each one capable of destroying a city. Kinetic projectiles moving at incredible speeds followed behind, carrying enough force to shatter mountains. The combined attack lit up the entire system. For a moment, the space where the human ship had been was filled with explosions and energy discharges. The light was so bright that the main screen automatically dimmed to protect the crew's eyes. "Direct hits across the target area," Nalix reported. No vessel could survive that level of concentrated fire. But even as he spoke, something was happening in the explosion cloud. The light was not fading as it should. Instead, it seemed to be gathering, collecting into patterns that moved across the space where the human ship had been. "Sir," Nalix said, his voice uncertain, "I am detecting something. The energy from our weapons appears to be organized." "What do you mean, organized?" "I mean, it is not dispersing randomly. It is forming patterns, as if something is controlling it." The light began to fade, and slowly, impossibly, the human ship came back into view. It hung in space exactly where it had been before, completely undamaged. But now the patterns on its hull were brighter, pulsing with energy that looked familiar. "By the gods," Captain Zix whispered. "It absorbed our weapons fire." Vexathara stared at the sensor readings. They showed that not only had the human ship survived their attack, it had somehow captured the energy and added it to its own power systems. The massive vessel was now glowing brighter than before. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human ship," Communications Officer Thys announced. Captain Chen appeared on screen. He looked sad, not angry. "Commander Vexathara, that was your warning shot. We absorbed your attack to show you that conventional weapons cannot harm Terra's Wrath. Please reconsider your position." "How?" Vexathara asked. "How did you survive that attack?" "As I told you, Terra's Wrath exists on multiple levels of reality. Your weapons can only affect normal space. Most of our ship exists in dimensions you cannot touch." Krex stepped forward angrily. "Impossible. You cannot hide in other dimensions." Chen looked at him with patience. "Sub-Admiral, humanity has learned to manipulate space and time itself. We build our ships not just with metal and circuits, but with mathematics and will. Terra's Wrath is as much an idea as it is a machine." "You speak nonsense," Krex shouted. "All ships concentrate fire. Continuous bombardment." "Wait!" Vexathara tried to stop him, but it was too late. Half the fleet opened fire again, pouring everything they had into the human ship. But this time, something different happened. The human ship did not just absorb the attack. It responded. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Vexithara noticed that some of the ships in her fleet were simply gone, not destroyed, not damaged. They had simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been built. "Report!" she shouted. "Sir, we have lost 43 ships," Nalix said, his voice shaking. "I cannot determine how. They simply are not there anymore." "What do you mean they are not there?" "I mean our sensors show empty space where they used to be. No debris, no energy, signatures, nothing. It is as if they never existed." On the main screen, the human ship had not moved. No weapons fire had come from it. No energy beams or missiles. The Zephyrian ships had just stopped being. "Sir, emergency signal from the destroyer Kaleth," Thais announced. "Put them through." The face of Captain Gorix appeared on screen. Behind him, his bridge crew was in panic. "Commander, something is happening to my ship. The hull is changing." Even as he spoke, Vexithara could see that something was wrong with the transmission. The image was becoming distorted, as if Captain Gorix was speaking from very far away. "Captain, report your status." "The walls are... they are becoming transparent. I can see space through them, but we are not losing atmosphere. It is as if we are becoming part of space itself. I can see my crew, but they look like ghosts." "Commander, what is happening to us?" The transmission became more distorted. "Captain, we are existing in multiple places at once. I can see my ship, but I can also see it as it was yesterday, and as it will be tomorrow. Time is broken here. Commander, please, help." The transmission cut off. On the tactical display, the Kaleth winked out of existence. "Sir, we have lost another 76 ships," Nalix reported. "They are just disappearing." Vexithara looked at the human vessel. It still had not moved, had not fired a shot, but somehow it was destroying her fleet with methods she could not understand. "All ships fall back," she ordered. "Retreat to minimum safe distance." But as her ships tried to withdraw, more of them began to vanish. Some simply faded away like ghosts. Others seemed to turn inside out, their hulls becoming transparent, while their interiors became visible from outside. One destroyer appeared to age rapidly, its hull becoming ancient and corroded in seconds before it crumbled into dust. "Sir, the cruiser Vengeance is requesting emergency assistance," Thess reported. "What is their situation?" "They report that their ship is moving backward through time. Their crew is becoming younger. Their captain is now apparently 12 years old and asking for his mother." Vexithara felt her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. "How is this possible?" "Sir," Nalix said quietly, "I think the human ship is not attacking us with weapons. It is attacking us with reality itself." She looked at the tactical display. In 30 minutes, they had lost over 200 ships, not to explosions or energy weapons, but to impossible phenomena that defied everything she knew about physics. "Sir, incoming transmission from Terra's Wrath," Thais announced. Captain Chen appeared again. "Commander, please order your ships to stop attacking. Every time you fire on us, reality becomes more unstable around your fleet. We are trying to contain the effect, but our defensive systems automatically respond to hostile actions." "What are you doing to my ships?" Vexithara demanded. "We are not doing anything intentionally. Terra's Wrath exists partially outside normal space-time. When you attack us, the boundary between dimensions becomes unstable. Your ships are falling through cracks in reality." "Stop it!" "We are trying, but our ship's defensive systems are automatic. As long as you continue attacking, they will continue to protect us by shifting attackers into alternate dimensional states." Krex was staring at the tactical display in horror. "Commander, we have lost 327 ships. At this rate, the entire fleet will be gone within the hour." Vexithara looked at the human ship. It hung in space peacefully, like a sleeping giant. But around it, space itself had become a weapon. Her mighty fleet, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, was being destroyed by forces she could not fight, could not understand, could barely comprehend. "All ships, cease fire," she ordered. "All ships, cease fire immediately." The attacks stopped. Slowly, the disappearances stopped as well. The remaining 400 ships of her fleet hung in space, their crews stunned by what they had witnessed. "Sir," Thais said quietly, "incoming transmission from the Emperor." Vexithara closed her eyes. She would have to explain to Emperor Valdris how she had lost over half her fleet to a single ship that had never fired a shot. "Put him through." The Emperor's ancient face appeared on screen. "Commander, I am reading massive losses in your fleet. What is your status?" Vexithara looked at the impossible human ship, at her decimated fleet, at the readings showing spatial distortions throughout the system. "Your Majesty," she said quietly, "I think we may have made a terrible mistake." Fleet Commander Vexithara stood on her bridge, watching the remains of her once mighty armada. 412 ships remained from the original 847. The others had not been destroyed in any conventional sense. They had simply stopped existing, victims of forces beyond her understanding. Emperor Valdris glared at her from the main screen. "Commander, explain to me how you lost nearly half your fleet to a single enemy ship." Vexithara looked at the massive human vessel hanging peacefully in space. Terra's Wrath showed no signs of damage despite absorbing the combined firepower of the greatest fleet in galactic history. If anything, it seemed brighter than before, its hull patterns pulsing with captured energy. "Your Majesty, the human ship operates on technology we do not understand. Our weapons cannot harm it, and when we attack, our ships are affected by some kind of dimensional distortion." "Dimensional distortion? What nonsense is this?" Before Vexithara could answer, Communications Officer Thess spoke up. "Sir, we are being hailed by the human vessel." "Put them through," Vexithara ordered. Captain Chen appeared on screen, but this time he was not alone. Behind him, Vexithara could see other humans working at stations that seemed to be made of light and mathematics. The bridge of the human ship stretched back much further than should be possible, and she could see gardens, fountains, and what looked like entire city districts in the distance. "Emperor Valdris," Chen said calmly, "I understand you are the leader of the Zephyrian Empire. I am Captain Chen of Terra's Wrath. I hoped we could speak directly." The Emperor's eyes widened as he took in the impossible interior of the human ship. "What sorcery is this? Your bridge appears to be larger than my palace." "Not sorcery, Your Majesty. Simply a different approach to engineering. Terra's Wrath exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you are seeing is only a small part of our ship." "Impossible. No vessel can be larger inside than outside." Chen smiled sadly. "Your understanding of space is limited by your experience. Humanity learned long ago that reality is far more flexible than most species realize." Sub-Admiral Krex stepped forward angrily. "Human, enough of these tricks. You may have some advanced technology, but you are still just one ship. The Empire has thousands more vessels." "Actually," Chen replied gently, "that brings up an important point. Commander Vexithara, you asked me earlier what Terra's Wrath truly is. Would you like to know?" Vexithara found herself nodding despite her fear. "Terra's Wrath is not just a ship, Commander. She is a home, a complete civilization contained within a single vessel. 50 million humans live and work within her hull. We have cities, farms, universities, factories, and research centers. Children are born here, live their entire lives here, and are buried here. Terra's Wrath is not a warship that carries soldiers. She is a living world that happens to be mobile." The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. 50 million? That is impossible. No ship could support such a population. "Your Majesty, Terra's Wrath contains complete ecosystems spread across hundreds of levels. We grow our own food, manufacture our own goods, and conduct research into sciences your people have never imagined. We are completely self-sufficient." Vexithara stared at the readings on her tactical display. If the human was telling the truth, then the ship before them was not just a vessel. It was an entire civilization that could travel between stars. "But why?" she asked. "Why build such a thing?" Chen's expression became serious. "Because humanity learned something that your empire has not. We learned that the universe is vast and dangerous, filled with hostile forces that seek to destroy anything different from themselves. We could have built 1,000 smaller ships, scattered our people across many vessels, but that would have made us vulnerable." "Vulnerable to what?" "To empires like yours, Commander, forces that demand submission and destroy those who refuse. Rather than build many ships that could be defeated separately, we chose to build single vessels so powerful that attacking them would be pointless." Emperor Valdris slammed his fist on his throne. "You speak as if you have more than one such ship." Chen looked directly at the Emperor. "Terra's Wrath is not unique, Your Majesty. She is one of 47 sister ships. Each one carries a complete human civilization. Each one is capable of defending itself against any known threat. The bridge fell silent. Vexithara felt the blood drain from her face. 47 ships like the one they faced. 47 mobile civilizations, each one carrying millions of humans and technology that operated outside the known laws of physics. Impossible, the Emperor whispered. I understand your disbelief, Chen said gently, but consider what you have seen today. Your fleet attacked Terra's Wrath with everything you had. We absorbed your weapons fire and demonstrated that we could defend ourselves without harming you intentionally. If we had wished to destroy your fleet, we could have done so instantly. Then why did you not? Vexithara asked. Because humanity does not seek conquest, Commander. We do not want to rule other species or take their worlds. We simply want to live in peace and explore the universe. When threatened, we defend ourselves, but we take no pleasure in causing suffering. Krex shook his head violently. This is all lies. No species becomes powerful without conquest. Power requires domination. Chen looked at him with something like pity. Sub-Admiral. That is exactly the kind of thinking that makes species like yours dangerous to the galaxy. You assume that everyone thinks as you do, but humanity learned long ago that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to choose not to. What do you mean? Vexithara asked. Commander, your empire has existed for thousands of years by conquering weaker species. You have grown used to overwhelming inferior technology with superior numbers. But what happens when you encounter something truly advanced? What happens when you face a force that could destroy you easily, but chooses not to? The implication hit Vexithara like a physical blow. You mean, Terra's Wrath could have eliminated your entire fleet in the first few seconds of engagement. Our defensive systems automatically shifted some of your ships into alternate dimensional states because they were programmed to use minimum necessary force. If we had wanted you dead, you would never have known we were there. Emperor Valdris was staring at the human captain with growing horror. You could have destroyed us at any time. Your Majesty, humanity mapped your empire's territory and military capabilities decades ago. We know the location of every major fleet, every military base, every important world. If we had wished to conquer your territory, we could have done so at any time. Instead, we chose to ignore you and focus on exploration. Then why are you here now? Vexithara demanded. Chen's expression hardened. Because you threatened human civilians. That is something we cannot allow. When you sent this fleet to Kepler's Gate, you crossed a line. Terra's Wrath was dispatched to remind you that some things have consequences. What kind of consequences? The Emperor asked quietly. That depends entirely on you, Your Majesty. If you withdraw your fleet and leave human space, this incident will be forgotten. If you choose to continue your aggression, Chen paused. Well, I hope it does not come to that. Vexithara looked at her tactical displays. Her reduced fleet faced a single ship that had just demonstrated it could eliminate them at will. But more than that, they now knew that 46 more such ships existed somewhere in the galaxy. Your Majesty, she said quietly, I recommend we withdraw. Emperor Valdris was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Captain Chen, if we withdraw, what guarantee do we have that humanity will not attack us later? Your Majesty, humanity has existed alongside your empire for decades without attacking you. We have no interest in your territory. We simply want to be left alone to explore the galaxy in peace. And if we refuse, if we choose to fight, Chen looked directly into the Emperor's eyes, then you will learn what 47 Terra's Wrath-class ships can do when they are not trying to minimize casualties. Your Majesty, I sincerely hope it does not come to that. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. Vexithara looked at the impossible human ship hanging in space before them. Terra's Wrath waited patiently, like a sleeping giant that could awaken at any moment. Commander, Krex said quietly, what are your orders? Vexithara thought about everything she had seen. The massive ship that existed in multiple dimensions. The technology that could manipulate reality itself. The calm confidence of the human captain who spoke of 47 such vessels. Most of all, she thought about the fact that the humans could have destroyed them instantly, but had chosen mercy instead. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships prepare to withdraw from human space. Sir? Krex looked shocked. You heard me. We are leaving." On the main screen, Terra's wrath began to fade from view, not destroyed, but simply choosing to exist somewhere else. As it disappeared, Vexithara realized that the age of Zephyrian dominance had ended not with a battle, but with a lesson. Humanity had shown them what real power looked like, and it was terrifying precisely because it came with mercy attached. "All ships," she announced to her fleet, "set course for home." As the Zephyrian armada turned away from human space, Vexithara wondered how many other species in the galaxy were making the same mistake her empire had made. How many others had assumed that power always came with the desire to dominate? And how many would learn, as she had learned, that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were those who could destroy you easily, but chose instead to let you live. The humans had sent only one ship. Now she understood why one ship was enough.